Day. And I wanted to say that even though my father, I thought, was hiding his homosexual feelings or behaviors all his life, I still loved him because I thought that he couldn't help having these feelings. And I thought that probably he had gotten them through possibly, well, he had to camp out with hired men. When he was very young, he had to do all kinds of work that I thought could have led to probably molestation. And this is the big tragedy of molestation, prolonged molestation, that goes on before the child is even into the teens. That it changes sexual orientation to the point that it's going to cause a huge problem in being normal and in getting married. And I felt my dad really wanted to get married and have children, but this was something that had happened to him along the way. I don't know just how, since he wasn't going to tell me. And he was just struggling against this all the time, trying to be normal, trying to convey to my mother that he, I felt he was always trying to be married, and he thought he was succeeding sometimes, and then he got very upset because he thought my mother rejected him. But my mother was reacting to the fact that he couldn't control his behavior. He was an alcoholic, and every time he drank, he'd run off and do hurtful things to her, give her the slip, wouldn't even let her be involved. And this was just so impossible and hard for her. So, but I always recognized that my dad had, he would always act like he was just, almost on the verge of giving up, just killing himself. But yet he still came back. He still came back from some pretty horrendous alcoholic crisis to get a hold of the alcohol, to start shutting it down, to live, to almost control it. Every once in a while he would go and drink. But after I was 15, he started cutting way back. And so then all he did was just work all the time. He acquired more ranches and more things to do, so that he was busy. And he was just struggling all the time to conquer what plagued him, the alcoholism and the split in his feelings. So I just want to say, this is why the need to really look at what's going on around us all the time, to detect when these things could be happening, because they're going to have such a tragic effect on the lives of, say, boys who are molested to the point that they develop a conflict in their feelings. They don't know what they are. They want to be normal. But now, this is not to say that I don't think some boys or girls are born. I have talked to many who felt that they were homosexual from birth, and they just felt they were ever any other way. But I always felt my dad was in denial of this. He didn't want. He never. It was something else, something that was, I thought, more indigent in the way of life where he'd been raised, and the kind of work he did. So, and when his partner molested me, one of the guys, the hired men that I thought he had gotten involved with, I couldn't tell my dad because I feared that his emotions would just get the better of him and he would just murder this guy. He wouldn't be able to control himself. And so I thought the guy was very dangerous, and 3 years later, after he did me and I didn't say anything, he started stopping to a widow's house that had a whole bunch of boys and girls. And I thought, oh, I've got to warn them. I've got to warn them.
Well, did you?
Yes, I did.
I
did. I told the best friend of the little girl that I was worried the most about that I said, you know, she's been molested. Instead of saying I had been molested, I said she had already been. And it was just a great big lie. I knew it was, and so did the girl. She ran right and told her, and so she called me up and said, why did you tell this horrible lie about me? That I've been molested by this. And she said, I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue you for, and I said, oh yeah. And I was only, 8 at the time, and I said, yes, I'm very sorry. And that no more was said. Nobody said anything to me, but I found out later on that the man did get shot about 2 months later, which I thought probably had a lot to do with what I had said about him molesting. So I had to do something. I had to make sure that these little kids weren't in danger just because I kept quiet. And I have thought later on, you know, my own son was molested at 7 years old. And if somebody had just said that this kid, he was quite a lot older, and if he had just said that there was a suspicion, and later on I talked to this kid myself, and by that time he was telling everybody he was molesting everybody. So everybody knew it, but it was too late. My own son had not been saved, and I had not been able to protect him. So just because of what happened to my dad, what happens in our society, molestation is...
I don't know. I think it must happen in your society. I've come back from the Midwest. I've never heard stories like this.
Well, the thing of it is what you have to think about is what molestation, prolonged, secretive, does
I was
to
looking
the
forward
kid.
to it as a kid, and it never happened to me. I mean,
be quiet.
Well, it's Father's Day.
Anyway, that's what I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to say, that I sensed all the time that my dad was struggling with these issues all the time. He never stopped struggling with them, but he just could not get to the point. I mean, it's too hard. I mean, suppression is so great. Was in our part of the country.
Did you see the movie called Broken Butt Mountain? Broken Back Mountain.
Yes. Well, how many movies do we have like that? How much do we?
How many movies do we need like that?
How much do we need? And I think we need more.
Well,
we need more. Oh, as long as kids are getting molested, we need a lot more to protect them. And I think they're getting molested a lot more than he thinks they are. Because, you know, there's just so many ways they can get to the kids, through the internet, through all kinds of ways, that we just have to be watchful. We have to be aware of what's happening. So that was what I think my dad struggled with. I struggled with it, and then my son had to struggle with molestation and the fix of it.
Well,
And just because you were lucky